Thanks for those of you who are already here and have already joined us. And welcome to this month's forecasting forum, which this is going to be a very different event than what I usually do. It's going to be an Ask Me Anything special event. And I've already gotten some really, really wonderful questions in from you guys, people that have emailed me already this past week. And we have some fantastic things to look at. But yeah, this is exciting for me because I've never done this before. So we'll see how it goes. All right, there's more people joining. So first of all, I just wanted to check in with all of you and just check and see how many of you are experiencing some sense of uncertainty in their lives at this time. Anybody? And feel free to just either raise your hand or to just chat with me, type in the chat window. Anybody having this feeling of uncertainty? And of course, I'm asking this because that's what's currently going on in the sky with all the planets, right? So if any of you are feeling it, then you're in perfect alignment with the sky or with the universe. Because we have that Saturn Uranus square, right? And that, of course, is bringing up a big chunk of uncertainty in our lives right now. So as I've said many times in my past videos and in my blogs and weekly forecasts and all that stuff is, get comfortable with uncertainty, get comfortable with being a little bit uncomfortable. Because of course, uncertainty makes us feel uncomfortable, doesn't it? Right? So it's a good idea to get a little bit comfortable with being uncomfortable. Julianne is saying she's overwhelmed at times. Yes, I can say that too. Yeah, because also right now we have Mercury in Pisces, right? And sometimes Pisces, when we're not able to really go within and trust our intuitiveness and our movement of things, sometimes with Pisces we can get a little bit overwhelmed, right? So it's when you feel overwhelmed, just stop. Stop what you're doing and just take a pause, take a breath, turn inwards, and get centered, inside your knowing that you already have. And sometimes that requires that we get quiet, right? Then the overwhelm tends to subside a little bit. The other thing that also helps me with overwhelm, by the way, guys, is, writing everything down that's in my head, because sometimes the overwhelm also comes from too much mental activity. And so if you write it all down and you let all the mental stuff go onto a page, and then you just go, okay, it's all written down. I'm not going to forget anything. Everything's going to be fine. I'm going to be okay. It's all there. Then sometimes the overwhelm can go away from that as well. All right. Now, how many of you are looking to astrology to find some answers and inner peace right now? How many of you are experiencing this draw towards astrology and wanting to kind of like find out how you can better be in alignment with what's currently going on? Anybody? Gori is finding that's true for her. Yeah, you too, Julianne. Okay, great. And by the way, if you're watching this as a recording, feel free to also answer the questions as, I'm talking about them for yourself. You might even want to journal, on those questions as well if you want to, and just see what kind of shows up for you. So anyways, thanks for everybody for being here, even if you're watching this as a recording. And for those of you who are new to my forum, I just wanted to share a little bit about myself, which is that I'm originally from Austria, from Vienna in Europe. And I've lived in the United States since the early 90s, mid-90s, I should say, mid-90s. And yeah, that's how long I've been also studying astrology, actually a little bit longer than that, since the early 90s. I've been studying astrology and I've had many mentors and took many, many classes in New York and read many, many, many books. And it's always been a passion of mine. I've always loved astrology. So that's not been, yeah, it's been just really awesome to do that, to be able to do that. And yeah, so, and I started this particular endeavor, connecting with people and reading people's charts and coaching people, because I've also trained as a life coach. I started that in 2010. So it's been almost 11 years, still going strong, and writing my first book right now. So I'm excited about that. And yeah, of course, everything in life has ups and downs. So I'm not saying that I've always, had a fantastic up curve and nothing ever happened that to disrupt my flow. As we all know, especially in the last 10 years, that there have been bumps in the road here and there, especially the last three. So I've definitely been experiencing that as well since 2017 in particular. There's been a lot of bumps in the road for me. But I'm happy to say that I'm doing okay, even though I had lots of bumps in the road. With a lot of help, from other people and a lot of introspective work, a lot of doing the work on my own as well, not just with other people. So that's very important, right? All right, so today, of course, we have this Ask Me Anything special event. So are you guys excited? Yay! That we're doing something completely different today than we normally do. For those of you who are new, of course, you don't know the difference. But for those of you who have been with me for a while, you might be excited that this is sort of like a whole new way of doing the forums today. I am excited. I'm also a little scared, but I'm more excited. And I just want to say thanks so much for all the wonderful questions that have come in. I'm really moved by how much came in and the variety of questions. So that was really wonderful. So we're definitely going to have a well-rounded webinar today. And of course, for most of you that have sent me questions, I do have your charts already, so we can all look at the charts together. And I will, obviously I will focus more on the parts of the questions that serve everybody who watches the webinar, whether live or as a replay, because I want to make sure that everybody gets something out of being here with the webinar. And if there's a part of your question that I'm not able to answer today, then please know that you can always book a one-on-one reading with me. The one-on-one readings, of course, are a little bit more in depth, and I am able to spend more time with you and more in-depth time with you, and we can go into more details with your chart. In the webinar format, I might not be able to do all of that. So I will, we will do whatever is best for everybody. But yeah, if you want more information, then please reach out via my website for a reading. All right. Okay, so then I just wanted to say, before we jump into the questions, I just wanted to say all of you should have received 2 emails from me, one yesterday and one today, and both of those emails had a ton of attachments on them. And one of the attachments is an overview for 2021. And so I just wanted to pull that up real quick because this is a fantastic document that you guys, if you want to print it out or have it on your computer, it's a great thing to have because for every month, I write exactly what each of the aspects are for each month and what's happening each month. So it's a great way to just get the overall view of what's happening. And then if you want to know in more detail what each of these aspects represent or what they're all about, then of course the weekly blog will go into more depth with each of these things. And also the full moon and new moon videos, I will touch upon some of these aspects as well. But yeah, basically, if there's an aspect that pops up at you where you go, oh my God, that's in exactly that degree of my sun sign or my moon sign or my ascendant or whatever it might be, then reach out for a reading because, of course, then that might be impacting you much stronger. And for those of you who haven't yet, definitely watch the How to Read My Birth Chart. That video is available for free on my website. That will also show you how to make use of the weekly blog, the videos that I do, and so on. All right. So that's that. Okay. So let's go into the question part because we have so many. So we better get started. So the first question I wanted to start with was a question from Liz. I think you're Taurus, Liz, right? You're Taurus, but you have lots of Gemini in your chart, don't you?
Yeah,
Anyways,
Gemini
so
rising.
Gemini rising, yes, and Mars in Gemini. Yeah. So a question that Liz had for me, which I thought was fantastic, and that I wanted to answer first because it covers a lot of stuff that I think is important in terms of our general understanding of astrology. And that she asked me about twin charts. Like, what about people who were born on the same day, the same time, the same place, like twins, basically, right? Who came even from the same mother, same DNA, all of that. How does that work? How do you look at that chart and go like, are these people two different people? Are they the same people? Do they experience everything the same? And this is a fantastic question because it can really help us understand a little bit more how astrology works through that question. One of the things I want to say here is that when you're dealing with twin charts, twins are not always born at exactly the same time, right? Because sometimes twins are born 10, 15 minutes apart, sometimes even longer, sometimes less long. But depending on how far apart they were born, they might have a different rising sign or they might have a different moon sign. So that is possible. So that's number one, that they might have a different moon sign or rising sign, which does change the traits of how a person experiences themselves in life and also how they respond or react towards life, right? The moon is how we respond, how we react to life. And the ascendant would be our experience of ourselves, how we see ourselves. So that's one. And then the other thing is that, we always have to remember with astrology that what we don't see in a chart, right? The chart is just a map. What we don't see in the chart is the person's consciousness level. That soul that came in to inhabit that particular energy pattern or that came in at that place and time to have that map as their life potential. We don't know what the consciousness level of that soul is. And that's why it's so important to do readings where you actually meet the person and can have a conversation with them. Because when you don't have a conversation with the person that you're reading for, you can't get a sense for where they're at. What consciousness level do they have? How do they see life? Like, how are they responding to life, right? So there's a lot of stuff that you might be missing if you don't know a person's, if you don't talk to a person one-on-one. By just looking at a chart, we really can't say like, how is this person going to react or respond to this particular transit, because they might not, who knows, they might not have the consciousness level to be able to respond it in a very high vibrational way. Or they might be able to very much respond to it in a high vibrational way. So that's one thing, the consciousness level, right, of a person. And this is also true with twins, right? You might have twins where one of the twin is more conscious than the other, that they don't have the same soul. They might have, the same DNA, but there's two souls, right, inhibiting these two bodies. The other thing is free will, the free will factor, right? Every person has free will. We can all choose how we want to respond to anything in life. We all get a chance to make our own choices, even within limitations, right? Even if you have limitations show up in your life, you still have free will to choose how you want to respond within those limitations, right? So even if somebody is, let's say, in jail and they don't have a lot of freedom to do much of it at all, they still have the free will to choose how are they going to deal with that experience? What are they going to do in their day-to-day while they are locked up in a small cell? That is still free will, right? So we have to remember that every person has free will. So if you're reading a chart for somebody else, you definitely want to take that into consideration, because that means that whatever the transit is, the person still chooses to do with that transit what they want to do with that transit, no matter what you tell them, right? So if I tell a client, this is the best way to deal with this particular energy, they still have the choice to do that or not do that. And they will choose it. And depending on their own conditioning, depending on what they've worked through in their lives and what they haven't worked through yet, they might be able to or not able to make a good choice for themselves. So this is something we have to remember. There's always an evolution that goes on with people. There's a consciousness, there's free will. So these are all factors when we look at people's charts, and also when we look at twin charts, right? So when with twins too, what we have to consider is, did they grow up together or did they not grow up together? Because sometimes twins, I mean, most of the time they grow up together, hopefully. But once in a while, there will be an experience where twins will be separated at birth and they will be adopted in separate families because they've lost their parents or they've lost their mom or whatnot. So there can be, when they're raised in the same family, with twins, we also have to remember that in a relationship, people own certain energies of a chart and project certain energies of their own chart onto other people. And so because twins are very close, especially identical twins are very close in their behaviors and nature, they will, sometimes one of the twins will hold one of the energies in the chart and the other twin will hold another, right? So that they can feel that they are separate from each other, so that they can feel that they're not the same person. And that's part of also the development of the individual. So that can happen with twin charts. But then also, when twins are not growing up together, when they're growing up in separate families, what they have found through research is that they actually tend to be much more similar in nature when they grow up separately, because there is no projecting onto each other or onto other people. So they tend to often twins will have very major incidents in their lives, like having a baby or getting married or something in connection with their career or their work or how much money they're making. There seem to be a lot of similarities around that, especially with twins that are growing up separately from each other. So that's an interesting thing. So that means basically that when we look at a chart, that certain transits will trigger the same thing in those people, even though they don't know each other, right? So I think that's quite interesting. And then also, of course, when it comes to relationships, close relationships, if you've ever been in a close, intimate relationship, you know that there's certain things that your partner will hold for you and certain things that you will be more comfortable expressing yourself and vice versa. But when you then break up with that person, or when you're no longer with that person, you will notice that, oh, I'm a little bit like that too, how you've experienced your partner. Or you will experience it like, oh my God, like I definitely don't want to be anything like that partner, right? That can happen too. But then if you have this very strong aversion towards a partner's energetics, that usually also means that that resonates with you, because if it didn't resonate with you, with your own DNA or with your own energetic makeup, you wouldn't be having such an aversion to it in somebody else. So it just means that maybe within you, it's just not developed in the way that it's developed by the other person. I always talk about, like how the volume can be turned up too high or too low on certain people's energies. And when it's turned up too high, then it's kind of like, whoa, like, like music, when it's too loud, you just kind of go, oh, please turn that down, like it's just too loud. When it's turned down too low, it's almost like you can't really hear it, or you don't notice it as much, right? So that's when we have to kind of work with the volume setting of a particular energy in our own chart. Okay? All right, so that's what I want to say about twin charts. Liz, did you wanted to have a follow-up question on that, or did I answer that question pretty well? Can you tell someone is a twin from a chart? No, You cannot. You cannot tell if someone's a twin from a chart. So if somebody has a lot of Gemini in their chart, for example, they might feel like they have a twin, but that could be an inner feeling, or it could be a feeling of like, a missing link that they're looking for their second half, right? But no, you can't see in a chart if someone's actually a twin or not unless somebody tells you they are a twin. So there's nothing really that says, ooh, that's a twin chart. No. All right, so let me go to the next question, which is from Erin. She sent me her chart. And so actually we're going to be taking a look at Erin's chart, but let me read the question first. So she wanted to know about her soul's potential and her soul purpose. And she also would like to understand her Chiron placement a little bit more. And she is a baby astrologer, which I take to mean that she studies astrology right now and that she's learning it's only started 3 months ago that she started to learn about astrology. Okay, so a very, very, very recent student of astrology. And so let's take a look at her chart. And so let's take a look at Erin's chart. So Erin sent me her chart that she has from AstrologerCoach. I think this is AstrologerCoach, and she has a lot of the asteroids in her chart as well, which I usually leave out of my chart because it gets very crowded when you have all of these asteroids. But I know that some people really love having a lot of stuff in there, so I just left it like this. But one of the things that I look at when it comes to like soul potential or soul purpose, there's a couple of things we look at in the chart. One of them is the moon nodes, right? So we have here the south node in Scorpio, the north node in Taurus, and we have it in the 6th and 12th house. So the moon nodes are always a great place to start when it comes to our soul's journey, because the moon nodes represent where we're the entering point, right? On a soul level, the entering point is the south node. And then where we're trying to balance that entering point out with the north node. So the north node is sort of like that's our point of vision in terms of like where we need to go so we can find more balance for ourselves in this lifetime. And the south node is usually all of our gifts and all the things that we're good at. But also we have some blind spots where we have the south node. So wherever you have the south node in your chart, you do have some blind spots there. So it is very important to be very conscious in terms of that house placement and that sign placement. But also if you have a planet, like Erin has a planet right here conjunct the south node, then that applies to that planet as well. So Erin needs to be extra careful around or extra conscious around how she works with the Saturn energy. And of course, Saturn at its highest vibration has to do with responsibility and the ability to be in integrity, to be responsible citizen of the world, and to be able to have set goals and follow them, and just to follow through, like a follow through, to just sort of like be always like continuously moving forward, right? So Saturn is very good at doing the work and keeping going, very disciplined. Yes, thanks Karen. And so Erin definitely has all those gifts. The blind spots would be Saturn at its denser vibration, right? So Saturn at its denser vibration is like, I want to control something, right? I want to be in control. I want things to be a particular way. Sometimes we get rigid where Saturn is concerned. We set up certain rules. We go, okay, this is my rule and this is how it needs to be. And we're usually not very flexible around those rules. What else would I say about Saturn in terms of its denser vibration? I would say there can be a little bit of anxiety around or pressure that we feel around time or timing of things. We tend to be a little bit hard on ourselves because we want everything to be just so, we want things to be really like at an expert level. And so sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves because of that. Now, all of that being so close to the ascendant and in Scorpio would indicate that when it comes to her persona, to herself, that she puts a lot of pressure on herself, and that she sometimes can get a little bit too rule bound with herself. And, when we think about rule bound, I would also mention here that Saturn has a lot to do with shoulds. I should be doing this, I should be that person, or I should be here already and not there, and so on, right? I know we all have those, we all have Saturn somewhere, right? So we all know what that's like. So if you have a strong Saturn in your chart, then you definitely resonate with what I just described. And so Erin needs to pay attention to that particular energy in her chart. There's also with Saturn, sometimes there's a wanting to be separate, or wanting to have really strong boundaries, right? Or wanting to have boundaries. Depending on, how conscious we are with that, we either have very healthy boundaries, or we tend to, just have a lot of boundaries and push everything away from us. So sometimes with Saturn in Scorpio, that could be, a boundary that we're setting with our intimate partners, or with sexuality, or in terms of our work, our passion of doing things. We need to have very clear structure and very clear boundaries in place. So this is what Erin came in with, right? And since the South Node is in the 12th house, there is some kind of like psychological part to it as well. There's a wanting to really go in depth into the deep depth of the unconscious, of psychology. And, she might be, with Saturn on the South Node, that might be someone who's very good at, doing therapy with other people, being a therapist, being a coach, a psychoanalyst, like something like that, with South Node in Scorpio in the 12th house, right? Now, again, I can't say if that's for sure true. If Erin was here right now, we would have a conversation about that, right? So I just want to say that for all of you who want to be reading other people's charts, it's very important that when we're making certain statements in terms of like what we're seeing in a chart, that we're also checking in with the person whose chart this is and saying, like, how does this play out for you? Do you have a desire to do this, to do something like that for work? And this person might say, no, not at all. That's not my thing, right? But then you kind of like ask, so how does that resonate with you then? How does this play out in your life? And then this person will give you their version of how they're using that energy, right? Because you can use an energy in a chart in a lot of different ways. It's not just one way, right? Astrology is not a clear-cut, cookie-cutter kind of a science, right? There are layers. There are lots of layers, and there's lots of possibilities within the framework of that map, right? So we can just kind of like, we can kind of go there energetically speaking, but how that person lives that out, that's up to them, depending on their consciousness level and depending on their free will that they're using, right? What they want to do with that. And then the North Node, of course, is here in Taurus in the 6th house, which means that it's very important for Erin to balance out all this Scorpio energy and all that heaviness and depth and emotion and feeling into things with something a little bit more earthy and grounded, and really learning how to enjoy life and how to bring some of that stuff that she's known for lifetimes, and also from this particular lifetime, from the early on, from her childhood, to bring that into her day-to-day experience and create something where she can create self-worth, where she can make money, where she can connect to herself on a more physical level and a more grounded level. So a job, for example, sixth house is day-to-day work, right? So a job that would incorporate all of that stuff here with the psychology or the depth or the crisis management or anything like that, to bring that into her day-to-day and have a job like that would be a good match for Erin, right? So again, since she's not here, she can't confirm that, or she can't say if that's what she does or whether she's even interested in that. So I don't know, but that would be part of her soul's journey, would be to learn how to balance out her day-to-day with her ability to just be connected to, either the unconscious or the other worlds or the spirit world. This is the spiritual house, right? Or the unconscious as well, the house of the unconscious. All right, so we have that, and then we also have, of course, the your sun sign is important in terms of like the realization of your soul's potential, right? The sun says a lot about that, and so her having the sun in Aquarius would indicate that, especially in the third house, would indicate that she does need to connect to like-minded people, and she needs to communicate and connect and talk about things. She also has Mercury there. So anyways, so she basically, this is part of her soul's, potential as well. And then of course, the other thing we look at for soul purpose is Pluto. And so all of you, right, wherever you have Pluto in your chart, that shows where your soul purpose lies. But you have to remember that soul purpose is also connected to where we feel the most empowered and disempowered. Pluto is very black and white, right? So not just where we feel the most empowered, but also where we felt the most disempowered maybe in the past. So the Pluto placement can show us, where there's maybe been some struggle, or there's been some pain or some hurt or something that we've experienced that's been kind of intense, that made us feel disempowered at times. And in order to take back our empowerment, we need to look at the opposite side of where Pluto is in our own chart. So if you have your birth chart in front of you, take a look at where's Pluto natally, and then look at the opposite point and see where's Pluto, where's that point opposite Pluto. And, for those of you who are young, or youngish, in the, I guess 30s, would say, you have Pluto in Scorpio. And so then the opposite point would be Taurus, 4 degrees of Taurus. And that would be here, for Erin, it would be Taurus, 4 degrees of Taurus in the 5th house. So for Erin, it's very important to express herself, to speak her mind, and to do that in a very grounded, self-assured way, to really get connected with her body, with her physical experience, and to really listen to what her body needs, and to express herself from that place, from that very grounded place. And that will help her feel much more empowered with that Pluto in Scorpio here in the 11th house. And so her soul purpose then really becomes connecting with like-minded people, or with tribes or groups of people that need transformation in their lives, right? Or she can receive transformation through connecting with those people. So that's all connected to soul potential and soul purpose. Does anybody have any questions about that?
If a natal chart have a Pluto in the 8th house, it's exactly in front of, it's from my sister, it's exactly in front of her north node, and she's having that in Libra, and is in the 4th grade of Libra. And I will ask later to you if the coming full moon is going to affect her in any way, but I see it's something like related to her soul's potential, as you said.
Yes.
Right.
Soul purpose, yeah.
Soul purpose.
If she has Pluto conjunct the North Node in the 8th house, then it's very important for her in this lifetime to find a way to empower herself in her relation, in her intimate relationships with other people, right? So if she, is your sister married?
Yes, she's having some difficulties right now.
Yes.
23 years of marriage, and
Yes.
they have a little bit of misunderstanding right now, talking
Yes.
about divorce and something like that.
I see. I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, with with the full moon, if the full moon is moving over that moon, over that Pluto North Node conjunction in her eighth house right now, there's definitely something that will come up for her at that time, that she's becoming more aware of, something that she's feeling. She needs to talk about her fears. She needs to talk about her feelings. She needs to talk about her own trauma around relationships, or around what she's scared about, what she needs from another person. So there's a lot of introspective work that needs to happen with a Pluto in the eighth house. A lot of inner work around traumas and around disempowerment and around fears that people have because of those traumas and these disempowerments. And Pluto requires of us to surrender to a certain extent to the larger journey that is connected to the Pluto journey, right? So if she has chosen that chart to come in with, she really wanted to actively work with that Pluto energy in this lifetime. And so she's either doing that through her relationship with her husband, through that marriage, or she's doing it by doing therapy, by connecting with other people that are helping her to really get to the bottom of like, what are the fears that she has around intimacy, around relationships, maybe something in connection also with your parents, right? In the eighth house,
Yes,
sometimes these things can be connected to the parents as well.
thank you.
All right. Okay. So let me just see if there's anything else. Deb says, absolutely makes sense. Thanks, Sonja. Okay, you're welcome. So as you can see from the conversation that I just had, it's very important, right, to not just have the planets and the houses in front of you, but to also have a conversation with the person, because it helps you understand a little bit better, what is the theme here that's going on, what's going on with this person, and then you can translate the planetary energies much better, right? Because where's that person at? What are we talking about here, right? So I hope that makes sense, right? Okay, so let's go to our next question, which is, oh yeah, Erin was also wanted to know about her Chiron placement, which is in Gemini in the seventh house. And one of the things I would advise you, Erin, is I do have a Chiron workshop that you can listen to on my website. And since you are a star member, you have access to that Chiron workshop for free, and until the end of, and as long as you're an active member, you have access to that workshop. So feel free to listen to that workshop. That will give you a lot of great information about Chiron, the Chiron placement. One thing that we always need to consider with any planet is that, where's the planet in what house and what sign? And then the second thing you want to consider is the ruler of the sign that planet is in. Where is that planet? And so if we look at your chart, right, we can see that Chiron is in Gemini in the seventh house. The ruler of Gemini is Mercury, and Mercury is in Aquarius, conjunct your Jupiter in the second house. So that means that the Chiron placement impacts not just the seventh house, but also the second house, and plays itself out in both of these areas of your life. So in terms of the wound that you experience internally, or also externally with other people, that impacts your sense of self-worth and your sense of self-esteem, and also your belief, around your belief structures. This is also your greatest gift, right? But feel free to watch this, the recording of the Chiron workshop, but that will give you a lot of great information, how to work with that energy and how to interpret that. Okay, so let's go back to our question page here. So the next question here, oh wait, Liz is saying something. The Chiron workshop and how to read your birth chart courses are fabulous. Thanks, Liz. Okay, yes, and they're both available via your membership portal, via the courses tab in your membership portal. Julianne is saying, would like to share, Sonja really helped me walk through my Chiron exact dates. Thank you. Yes, so if you have like a Chiron transit, for example, like Julianne and I, we did a reading and we talked about her Chiron transit as well, because she's had a Chiron return. That is really helpful to have a reading about when you have a strong Chiron transit that's happening, with your natal chart. Definitely reach out for a reading. It's going to be very helpful. All right, so let's go to the next question. Audrey is saying, please address intercepted houses and their meanings and houses in general. Okay, great. So let's go to Audrey's chart here and let's see what we have to say about that. So here's Audrey's chart. And we can see here that Audrey has an intercepted house here in the 1st and 7th house. There is signs that are intercepted inside that house, which means that they're not touching the cusp of the house, right? So she has Aquarius on the cusp of the 1st house, which is her ascendant. Then there's Pisces all the way inside, which you can see it starts here with that blue line and it ends here with this blue line. And then there's Aries on the next house cusp of the 2nd house, right? So that's what we call an intercepted house. And of course, because houses are always the same on the other side as well, there's also an intercepted house exactly opposite from the 1st house, which is the 7th house, and has Virgo intercepted. Now, the way we look at intercepted houses, so if you have that in your chart, and by the way, not every astrology program has intercepted houses, depending on which house structure you're using for your chart. If you're using Placidus, which I'm using more often than not, if you're using Placidus, then you will find that there will be intercepted houses. The same is true for Koch, if you use Koch. But some other house systems, like the equal house system or the whole house system, they don't always have intercepted houses. So it depends on what house system you're using. If you use Placidus or Koch, then you probably will experience intercepted houses. There are some other house systems that have it too, but I don't know about all of them. But basically, for Audrey here, what's important to know is that the Pisces energy and the Virgo energy is something that she connects with from within very strongly. It's a very personal experience. It feels very personal to her. But other people out there in the world might not know that she's experiencing this as strongly as she is, because it's intercepted. So when something's intercepted, it's like it's happening for you very strongly, but other people might not know that that's happening for you. And of course, if Pisces is involved as an intercepted sign, and especially in the 1st house, there's this sensitivity that Audrey has that she knows about. But maybe other people don't always know about that. So it's important for Audrey to make sure that other people know how sensitive she is, because not everybody's going to know that. And she also has planets here in Pisces, which are intercepted, Jupiter and the moon. So I would say that she is highly sensitive, very intuitive, and And maybe sometimes it's hard for her to accept that about herself. Because sometimes also with intercepted houses, we tend to, we feel it internally, but because nobody else knows it about us and nobody else really responds to that part of us, we sometimes have this sense of like that it's not quite real. Or we don't have full access to it because of it, because we're not really interacting from that place with other people. And our interactions with other people have a lot to do with how we integrate energies, right? How we connect to certain things in our charts. Other people have a lot to do with that. So when we're experiencing like intercepted houses or planets in intercepted houses, it can be sometimes difficult for us to really integrate them fully or be fully accepting of these energies, even though we know that they're there, even though we definitely know that they're there, right? Now, I'm sure there are a lot of you who have intercepted houses somewhere in your chart. I mean, I have an intercepted house in the 3rd and the 9th house, Capricorn, Cancer. So I was just wondering, did anybody else have any question about intercepted houses that you wanted to ask here since we're talking about it? So let me just see.
So is it typical in the intercepted houses that one of the houses is loaded? Like I see the stellium in the 1st house for her, and then in her 7th house, it's got one planet. So is it typical to have that kind of balance?
No, so the planets that are in those intercepted houses, that's random, right?
Okay.
That depends on when she was born, and
Okay.
I mean, if she would have been born at a different time and year, and she still has that interception, the planets would just be somewhere else, but she could still have that interception. Like,
So,
I have only my north node and my south node in the intercepted houses that I have, so I'd have no other planets there.
okay. So I have an intercepted 6th and 12th house
Okay.
with a stellium in the 12th house.
You have a stellium in the 12th house?
Yeah.
Okay. And is the stellium in the sign that is intercepted?
No.
No. Okay. So that's a little slightly different. Right?
Okay. Okay.
So if the stellium was in the sign that was intercepted, then you would feel all these planets very strongly internally without maybe fully being able to accept or integrate them. If they're not in the intercepted sign, if they're in the sign that's either on the cusp of the 12th house or already in the next sign which rules the 1st house, then you would have more access to these planetary energies and also experience them as you're relating with other people or interacting with other people.
Okay, I got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thanks for your question.
There could be a reason why the interaction is not there.
Yes. On a soul level, there could have been a reason why it was chosen that way. Absolutely. And the reason could be that this soul wanted to explore this energy either in other ways on more internal level, or the soul wanted to have more access to other signs in the chart. Because what happens is when you have intercepted signs, you do have other signs in the chart that are more pronounced. So if we look at Audrey's chart, for example, we can see that Capricorn is on her 11th house and her 12th house cusp, and Cancer is on her 5th house and her 6th house cusp. So as she's working with these signs, with the Cancer and Capricorn energy more fully, she has the ability to get more connected to these intercepted signs through those other two polarities, through that polarity, right? So sometimes the soul sets it up so that we kind of need to work with another energy more fully in our lives so that we can access these intercepted houses in a different way. So somebody else was saying, what is a stellium? Oh, thanks, Liz, for that question. So a stellium means when there are more than three or more planets right next to each other, and one of the planets has to be a planet that's not a personal planet, right? So a stellium usually includes like a social and outer planet like Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Pluto, Chiron, Neptune, or one of those. Because when it comes to the personal planets like Venus, Mercury, and the Sun, for example, they're usually very close to each other. So if you have Venus, Mercury, and Sun right next to each other, that's not necessarily a stellium, because that can happen quite often. So a stellium would have to include one more planet that is not Mercury or Venus or the Sun, right? Does that make sense, Liz? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I have a stellium in the 12th house. I didn't know that, so thank you.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You have a stellium in the 12th house. That's right. That's right. So, so the stelliums are usually there for us to emphasize. There's sort of like a focus. The soul wanted to focus on either a particular sign more fully, or particular planets, right? So the planets that are involved in a stellium usually have more gravitas in our personality or in our need to explore something for ourselves. So the 12th house, of course, it gives you sort of like the need for connecting to your own spirituality, connecting to yourself, and to your soul self and to your higher self, and really learn about yourself, learn who you are, what you're made of, and how you can connect to your own energy body, your own feeling body, how you can connect to, other worldly things out there in the world. So that's where the stellium would put your focus. And then depending on what planets are involved, that would be the way you would be working with that house. Okay. All right, so let's see. Leah is saying, I have Aries intercepted in the 12th house with Venus and Mars conjunct, and Libra intercepted in the 6th house with the Moon and Pluto conjunct. So Leah, if you have a lot of planets that are also intercepted in those houses with the signs that are intercepted, then look to see where are the signs in your chart that rule two house cusps. So somewhere in your chart, there is going to be a sign. It doesn't have to be Capricorn or Cancer, right? Could be any sign where they rule two house cusps instead of just one. And those are the signs and houses in your chart that if you access those places in your chart more fully, you will have more access to those intercepted signs and planets and signs. Does that make sense, Leah? It is Capricorn and Cancer. Okay, that's funny. Okay, so Cancer, Capricorn. So that is connected to, either the nurturing part of you, being a mother or being a parent. Capricorn could be connected to career. So the nurturing part of you and the career person in you needs to have an expression in this lifetime, so that you can connect more fully to your own passion, to what you're passionate about and where you want to be going with your own goals, and also to your own empowerment. Feeling empowered as a woman or as a mother. All right, so let's go to the next question here. All right, so the next question here is, before we go to the next question, I did want to mention, of course, one of the handouts that you guys have is a houses handout that is attached to the email that I sent you guys. So please feel free to look over this handout. This is really beautiful way to really understand each of the houses in your chart. It can also help you with the intercepted houses and the houses that have the same sign on several house cusps. You can look into that and see what areas of life need more of your attention and more of your work. Um, and yeah, also with transit, this is a wonderful handout to have. Okay. One thing I would love to answer, which has to do with the Uranus-Sun opposition that Jan was asking me about. So Jan was saying that he has, he wants to know the difference between the Sun being opposite his natal Uranus, which will be on March 25th, and Uranus sitting on top of his natal Sun, Saturn, and Mercury. So if we look at his chart here, we can see very clearly. Now, this opposition between the transiting Sun and his Uranus, this happens to all of us every year, right? Because the Sun transits are very fast and they happen every single year. The Sun comes around the whole zodiac every single year. So if you have a Sun opposition to your Uranus by transit, that means that this is something that you experience every year at the same time. And so for Jan, this is every year on March 25th, he has the Sun opposing his natal Uranus. So this is something that he'll experience every year, whereas a Uranus transit to the Sun is something that we only experience every 84 years, which means once in a lifetime, usually, right? Because most people don't get to be over 160 years old, right? So every 84 years, so that means that the last time Uranus was in that same degree was actually in May of 1938, right? And so now we're experiencing that again in May of 2022. It's going to be on top of Jan's Sun. Yeah, because this is November 8th, 2022. Yeah, that's right. It's not this year. This is next year for him. He's thinking far ahead. Jan is a far ahead thinker. He wants to plan. His Saturn Sun is like, let's plan what we can do next year about this. So Jan, just so you know, I mean, by next year, you might be a very different person already. So everything that I'm saying to you now might not even resonate a year from now. So you might want to watch this recording again a year from now. You know, you're thinking very far in advance. Now, one thing that I did want to mention that might be interesting to all of you with Uranus transits is that, you know, Uranus transits are very strong every 21 years. Every 21 years, there's going to be a significant Uranus transit that we're experiencing to our natal Sun. So whenever you have a conjunction with Uranus and the Sun, 21 years later, you will have the opening square. 21 years later, you will have the opposition to that, to your Sun. And then 21 years later, again, you will have a closing square to your Sun. So if you currently have a Sun-Uranus conjunction, then the next time you will have a significant transit with Uranus will be 21 years from now. But you can also look at the last time you had a significant transit, which was 21 years ago. And so for Jan, that was in January of 2000, when Uranus was squaring the Sun in Taurus, when Uranus was in Aquarius in 2000, okay? So he, for example, Jan could look back to the year 2000 and go like, what was happening at that time for me? What was shifting or changing in my own consciousness or in my own way of looking at myself, who I am or who I would like to be? So something was shifting at that time. And now with Uranus being on the Sun, again, there's another shift that's happening that asks of Jan to integrate that Uranian energy within himself, to really bring the two together. Right? Him as a Taurus and that Uranus energy. So of course, as a Taurus person, that means, you know, you need to remain open, especially open-minded. You remain flexible, allow yourself to really express yourself fully and be yourself. Yeah, to connect to your physical body and to listen to what your physical body is trying to tell you about your own individual self. Because the body, with Uranus in Taurus right now, the body is giving us a lot of information. You know, where do we need to connect more fully to the body, you know, so that we can get insight into, you know, how we can experience more freedom or more individuality in our lives. Okay. Thanks so much for watching today, and thanks so much for being here with me for so long. This was a pleasure. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next month, we will talk about the Pluto station phase in 26 degrees of Capricorn, because that means Pluto is going to be very exalted at that time. And we also have a full moon in Scorpio on April 26th. And of course, Pluto rules Scorpio. So this will be a very powerful full moon. And we will look at that in relationship to our own birth charts to see how this is impacting each one of us personally. That will be on April 23rd, that forum, at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. London time, because London will now be also in daylight savings time as well at that point. And of course, as always, there's early bird specials are available until April 20th for $32. After that time, it goes back up to $37, and as a star member you have access to this automatically, and you're only paying $27 a month for your star membership, which includes a lot of other goodies. So if you don't know what these goodies are, please go to my website and look at the star membership there and see all the stuff that's included in this monthly membership, because there's lots of discounts that you're getting, so feel free to take advantage of that. Okay. All right, you guys. So I hope this was wonderful for all of you. Deb, yes, very interesting. Thanks for a great session. Thank you, Sonja. Enjoyed this format. Very interesting, learning the personal aspects with the charts. Thank you, Sonja. Great forum. All right, wonderful. Thank you, guys. And then Leah saying, thank you so much. Love your forums and videos. Awesome. All right. You guys, much love to all of you. And if you're watching this as a recording, of course, much love to you as well. Thanks for watching. And hopefully I'll get to see all of you again in April for the next forum. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye, everybody.